So this is the weekly outlook for the third trading week of January. Since last week we confirmed the flip context on DXY. We're now bullish on DXY. I would have traded DXY last week if we had this disrespect, but due to this gap here, so the track order flow, so I had to ignore it. Now since we disrespected that gap with last week's candle, can be confident it'll go into like highs for this flip context. Looking at this high now, and in the weekly we have this breakaway gap here. Not expecting price to get back to this point, but we'll see. And on Forex Factory, I think we have a lot of news this week, so we'll be checking that too. Then on the daily, there's not much to look forward to on the daily. Maybe this low for like a pivot context, since we're not expecting price to reach that gap. This low could be something, but we'll see what will happen. I'm just expecting a retracement, maybe towards this low or this gap before looking for longs, but the bias is just bullish. Same thing on USD JPY. We have this weekly gap, though this rejection candle does not look as clean, but it's still a gap itself, a weekly bullish gap. So I'm looking to long from this point. On the daily, there is nothing to convert into a daily pivot context, so I'll just be looking only at that weekly gap and see what we get from there. But if we do get like a consolidation to create a low here, I might be looking towards like a daily to 1 hour pivot context if we get that. But if we don't, I will just be looking at this fair value gap here for longs. USD CHF is like the more pronounced DXY because we disrespected that gap and started the pivot context since last week. I should have treated it, but I was trying to be sure first with DXY. So since we have this breakaway gap here and we'll have no resistance on the weekly, can go on to the daily to look if we have anything here. Like DXY, we have just this low here to look forward to. But we will try this candle close as this rejection. Yeah, I don't know if price does manage to sweep this low first, that's good, but this is the low we're looking to like as the context point of interest. USD card too, we also have a weekly breakaway gap, and we disrespected this gap with this 2 candle rejection, so I'm looking for highs for longs here. On the daily, actually we can actually convert to a daily pivot context if we stick at this low first before seeking higher prices. But for now it's still on the weekly. Weekly is the main priority for now. Euro USD on the weekly, we have this flip context since last week, but same thing with DXY. I wanted confirmation first, so we're looking towards this low now as the main target. But for the week, we have a breakaway gap on the weekly, and on the daily we actually have a fair value gap unlike the rest that we can actually look forward to sell from. So if price does fill this gap, we'll be looking to sell from this gap towards that low. Same thing on GU, but GU is actually a breakaway gap, but EU is still weaker. And that's all for majors. Trying to blitz through the whole thing before YouTube cuts the video short again. Since we already have this context from last week, this weekly context from last week on Dow, we had the daily context from Dow. We created this weekly gap, but it's a breakaway gap due to this rejection here. Not really expecting price to pull all the way back before going back up. On ES and NQ, we have nothing really on the weekly. Only thing is maybe if we want to sweep out this low, that's something. Other than that, we have nothing on the weekly. Then on the daily on Dow, I have this gap here. Looking forward to long from this gap. If we do fill the gap and get, I have like an entry to go higher, I'll execute it. And yes, really, again, we have nothing to look for there on the daily other than maybe this pivot low here or an SMT with Dow. With something to work with, probably an SMT with Dow, filling that gap there, maybe ES failing to, but for now really nothing here, man. Nothing here. Same thing with NQ. Trying to make it simple as possible this week, not trying to miss so many setups. The main focus is EU and GU, and if we get any midweek context, I'll still journal it and observe it during the weekly review. I think my mistake for last week was ignoring I'm trying to say it's an inaccuracy, because on GU, on EU I mean, or is it DXY? On DXY, on the monthly, we had this clean pivot context here with this clean flip context with market disrespecting this gap. So I was expecting lower prices first. I was expecting lower prices on DXY, coupled with the fact that on the weekly we had this weekly gap here that had not been disrespected. With those two, monthly and weekly, looking like possibility to go lower, and the daily also having a bullish idea here, it felt like a trapped order flow to me. That was why I was waiting for like an actual disrespect first, which we got with this candle. So now I'm looking for higher prices if we do get any context to go higher. I'm going to check Forex Factory real quick. I'm going to check on from tomorrow to Friday. I have card news on by 8:30, not really relevant to me. We'll be trading Monday though. We'll be trading Monday, sha. Tuesday we have GPB news, London session news. On Wednesday we have President Trump speaking by 8:30. Yeah, that one I will actually have to wait. If there's a trade on Wednesday, I actually have to wait till after Trump speaks before executing, because I don't really know what to expect, and it's an high volume volatility news. On Thursday we also have a US news, high impact. Will be trading on Thursday, and on Friday. Is there on that speak? Nothing on Friday. On Friday we'll be trading on Friday too. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we're trading if there's valid setup. The caution will be on Thursday, on Wednesday, before Trump speaks. I have to trade after Trump speaks. That's by 8:30 New York time. But that's all for the weekly review. If we do get good setups this week, the goal is to execute the model under pressure. Just properly execute under no matter amount of pressure. Fear of losing, fear of winning, just does not matter. Just execute as long as it's valid and it's clean and there is no like opposition to it. It was the main reason I did not trade EU last week, so I don't really see it as something bad. We need extra confirmation to make sure we take like only the A plus setups and not the just maybe. Trying to remove the maybes from the model, just to trade the model itself. Anyways, till the weekly review.